There's never been more of a time that I would probably say I was more of an isolationist or more of a, hey, let's just quit worrying about what's going on in the world and just focus on America than now. Why? Because we see that NATO, we see that Norway, we see that all these countries, UK, Europe, all these countries in Europe, all trying to reprimand us and degrade us because some little man come over here that was ungrateful for all that we've done for him. So today we're talking about Ukraine and Zelensky. We're also going to discuss what Elon Musk just said. He made two statements, bold statements, on the Joe Rogan podcast that we need to discuss. Also, Tucker made a huge announcement. And this announcement goes back to the ungrateful little man that came over here. Now let's also talk about what Trump just did. He signed an executive order for timber production. He also is looking for rare earth minerals. Russia just came out and said they would love to work out a deal with rare earth minerals with us because they have more than Ukraine. We keep pushing the fact of mining, and we talk about things that naturally are on the earth, like timber, like oil, like other mining goods that we need, rare earth minerals. Today we're also going to talk about gold again. How important is it? And with all the talk of Fort Knox and the skyrocketing prices of gold, and they're actually saying shortages, there may be more reason to start mining once again. And Trump is pushing it. We'll talk about all that today. This video starts right now. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, again, please go down here, press subscribe. Look, we are actually in the negative subscribers for the month. They are taking away some of our subscribers, and we've had several people comment saying that they have been unsubscribed, not because they wanted to. It just happened on this platform, so please make sure you are subscribed and put the bell notifications on. Give us a thumbs up. That helps us spread our message across this platform. When we speak truth, sometimes people don't like it. Before we jump into today's video, remember we are doing a giveaway at the end of the video. This is going to be a Donnybrook Provisions. We're not sponsored by them, but they provide a phenomenal survival first aid kit that will keep you safe. We carry it with us everywhere we go. We're going to be giving that away at the end of the video. Now let's jump into the topics of today. Let's talk about NATO just for a second, and then we're going to talk about what Elon Musk said. Over the past decade, the U.S. has spent, now listen to this, $8.4 trillion on defense. Now that was a T. $8.4 trillion on defense. Now that's because a lot of endless wars, a lot of military spending across the world, and guess what? A lot of it's not dealing with us being in conflicts. It's dealing with all the money we're giving to places like Ukraine. Listen to this. While we spent 8.4 for NATO, one country in NATO, the rest of NATO spent 3.8 trillion. Now let me make sure you understand those numbers. 8.4 America, 3.8 everyone else in NATO. Mike Lee came out this week and said it's time to pull out of NATO. Elon Musk, again, as the other president and also the richest man in the world, no matter how much you hate him, he is brilliant. SpaceX is the only aircraft that can go to the space station and get the people off the space station. Tesla is the only one making superchargers that other cars are wanting to utilize. Starlink is the only internet service that is actually pushed in places of conflict like the Middle East and also Ukraine. So before you start dogging him out, again, not that I trust him on everything, I really don't. He is a brilliant man. But he made this comment too. He said, do you see the money we're investing in NATO? What have we actually got in return other than it putting us in conflicts and spending all of taxpayer dollars? It's time to pull out of NATO. And I fully agree with that. That's kind of why I said we could be an isolationist. What has NATO actually done for us? Now, I want to ask you that. What has NATO done for America? What has anyone done for America? I don't see, people coming to our shores and helping with our problems that we're having. I mean, Canada, because of the tariff situation, and they were trying to look all tough, they came over and they gave us some fire relief for California. But that's really about the only time that we've actually had anyone assist us. So why do we want to keep funding NATO? You know what we would do? We would dismantle NATO if all of a sudden we pulled out, just like we did with the WHO. It says now they are struggling to even find means to keep their aspirations up to do more health across the world. USAID, without USAID too, what are we going to do? Because, they're stopping our funding. It's like my farm. I have a mama cow, and that mama cow nurses all these calves. Those calves are just basically living off their mama. They're not yet eating their own food. They're not yet eating feed. They're not yet able to make it on their own. When I take that mama off, though, guess what? They have to learn to make it on their own. They have to learn to eat the grass and learn to eat the hay and learn to eat the feed like any other cow does. But as long as I have that nursing mama in there, all those calves are just going to keep living off that mama. I mean, we're literally taking our tax dollars and we're in piles of debt in a $2 trillion deficit, and NATO is milking us dry. Ukraine is milking us dry. Everyone else in the world is milking us dry. UK said the other day that they were mad at us because we didn't sign the agreement for Zelensky coming over here. Zelensky he was so ungrateful that he wanted more money in troops on the ground. And Trump called his hand at it. Vance called his hand at it. Why are we upset about that? Do you want troops on the ground? UK now has come out and said that we're going to give 2-point-something billion. 2-point-something billion. Zelensky was wanting 250 more billion to fight this war. UK said they're standing with Ukraine. They don't even have a military hardly to stand in Ukraine. So I laugh because what they're trying to do is put us in a war with NATO. NATO is wanting to move troops into Ukraine-Russia situations while we're trying to get peace. That's why you better pull out of NATO now. And I hope Trump is pulling out of NATO or really wanting to, destroy and dismantle his allies for what they're doing. Did you know we had to turn a submarine around because Norway wouldn't fill it up? We're part of NATO, they're part of NATO. Why are they turning our ships around or our Navy vessels around or our submarines around for not fueling them up? To me, that's an act of war. Cut their funding. Why are we funding these people to then turn around and spit in our face and wrap around us because we don't want to waste our tax dollars or send our sons and daughters to Ukraine? Russia came out and said that they want to do a rare earth mineral deal with us because they have way more than Ukraine. This is the time of brokered peace. What are we talking about here? This is an opportunity to have peace, and Zelensky doesn't want it. So why in the world do we not take Mike Lee's advice, Elon Musk's advice, and several other players in America saying pull out of NATO? You know who's telling us not to pull out of NATO? The Democrats, the rhinos, people like Lindsey Graham, John Bolton. John Bolton came out and just said that is absolutely preposterous. This man, what has he done other than put us in war and make tons of money off of it? Along with Karl Rove, the Bushes. It's funny, because the people that actually agree with our side are the people that actually stands with a America First agenda versus the people that's standing to waste your tax dollars and send your sons and daughters to war. Unbelievable. It's time to pull out of NATO. Now that goes right into what Tucker Carlson just said. He actually came out with a long reading, and here's what he said. It says, one of the most striking things of yesterday's press conference is the Lindsey Graham situation where now the two old friends are he's kind of saying Trump did the right thing. It came back and basically the synopsis of this whole article was Tucker confirms that Ukraine is actually selling American weapons on the black market in terror groups. Zelensky also engaged in assassination attempts against people that was critics of his outside his own country. This thuggish dictator regime is finally crumbling, and even people like Lindsey Graham is seeing it. What we're seeing is this guy is corrupt. He's a dictator. That's why he's not had an election. It's amazing how all these people are like hugging this guy and loving on him, and he's a dictator. He's not even allowing his people to vote him out, and we just keep supporting him. We'll dog out Maduro, we'll dog out North Korea, we'll dog out all these other places, and at least Russia has an election. Zelensky has not had an election. If he had an election, he'd lose. Trump even said that he would lose because his own populace is not standing with him anymore. I love the fact that we actually did not sign this mineral deal. Not because I don't think it would have been good to have payment back, but the sad thing is the negotiations that were made, most of our money's been grants, whereas most other places have been loans. Why? Because the people that want you to send your sons and daughters and keep funding this war is the people that is giving the money away because they know a lot of that money's coming back to them untouched. Granted money. There's a story that came out, and this was shared by Muse. It says, Ukraine, Obama's team, including Blinken, Nuland, Susan Rice, and Vindman, Alexander Vindman, that weasel, advised Zelensky to reject the Trump deal. So he actually met with some Democratic operatives before he met with Trump. What did I say yesterday? Trump and his administration is not a threat to democracy. It's a threat to bureaucracy. Pay attention to that. We're going to go into something else that Elon Musk said later that Tim Burchett also said as a congressman, and I think he's a really good guy. He's going to end up being another Thomas Massie, I hope. But we'll talk about what they said. But first, let's talk about what Trump just did with the fact of the timber production. He's pushing more for timber production. He's pushing for more for rare earth minerals. Both those things he signed executive orders to get it up and going so we can understand the value of what America is producing. Well, one of those other things is gold. We are trying to find the gold because remember, if we see that people are buying gold more, which they are, it's going to make a shortage. What is the way to make more gold? You mine it. I mean, gold is at an all-time high, $2,900, $3,000. That is all-time highs just in the last few days. Now I want to show you this image. This image just proves my point. Gold is at all-time high. However, gold miners, this graphic will show it. Why is gold mining stock still down? Well, because our last administration did not allow for you to actually mine anything out of our ground. They wanted to push this narrative on you. Actually, what we need to see with the timber, with the oil, and with, of course, the mining with like gold, silver, copper, all those things, stock's around $49. $49. When normally back in 2011, it was at $167. More than 3 times the value of what it was because the regulation was allowing for us to go and get these deposits of gold. Well, for the longest, we haven't had that. Under the last Trump administration, it started going up again. But then you had Biden, brought it right back down. Well, now we have Trump pushing for these kind of things to take place. Today's sponsor is Gold Mining Inc. Now, Gold Mining Inc. is literally, it is trading for under $1. The last time they were at this low was in 2020 when all the markets fell out. At the end of February, Gold Mining's market cap was at $155 million with no debt. So a company that I've personally looked at because I'm thinking, okay, if I'm going to not only invest in gold, and right now bullion's a little high, so I'm looking at gold stocks because I already have money in the market. I'm thinking of how can I make sure that money is safe. My personal opinion now, this is, you go do your own research, but I started looking at this company and saying, okay, this may be a great opportunity because I see this company investing into things that our administration is wanting to invest in, but also real assets that are in our grounds. Between the cash and the other shares of Gold Mining's value is $145 million. Yet, but when this company sold, it was worth $850 million based on the same data points that I just told you it's worth $155. So now we're seeing the sky's the limit because they're actually at the very bottom to where hopefully the only way is up. When it was worth its prime back in 2011, when gold mining was at its top, and you saw a lot of the gold mining stocks doing really well in 2011, gold was at $1,950 an ounce, which is still very good. However, now it's worth $1,000 more. So now you're going to start seeing Trump pushing these executive orders, Trump pushing for mining and for drilling and for exploration and for sustainable independence here in America. Gold is one of those things he's pushing for. What makes this company good is that it is invested in other gold companies like U.S. Gold and Gold Royalty Corp. So it has got its hands in several different areas that can produce tons of gold. Gold Mining Inc., like I told you before, is just trading for cents. It's trading for 80 cents. That is a 5-year low. That's what made it very important to look at for me because personally, again, I love buying the ounce of gold, but it's $29,000 to buy a coin of gold. Whereas I could take that same amount of money and think of the shares that you can buy. If it just goes up to what it was 5 years ago, or when Trump was president last time, then you know your investment is going to be strong. When Trump was ending presidency, it was worth $2.72. That's $2 more a share. That means it has dropped 60-something%. This may be the perfect opportunity to look at places like mining stocks and gold companies. They own dozens of projects that has, listen to this, 12.5 million ounces of gold equivalent estimated in mineral resources. That's huge. That is a monster of amount of gold in the ground that they already know they have rights over. Again, anytime I talk about what you do with your money, what do I always tell you? You do your research and find out what's best for you. I bought a lot of physical gold. I love it. But then there's times that it gets kind of pricey, so I look at other opportunities, and I've talked about this before. When I've got money in the market that's got to be there because of 401ks or got to be there because of all these other regulatory bodies that I have to keep money there, hopefully that will be there because Social Security may not be, then I'll look at companies like this. Gold Mining Inc. is a company that I'm personally looking at. Do your own research. I left a link to all the information that I looked at along with a big old presentation to where if you want to look at it, it would be worth to look at it, especially if you've got money and you're trying to find a place to put it that is safe. And especially at its all-time low when gold is at its all-time high. Finding independence and sustainable practices in our ground, and this is one of them. go by and check them out. Now let's go back and let's talk about one thing that Elon Musk brought up on Joe Rogan. This is the second point that he brought up. He said, and this was Tim Burchett, and he kind of brought up what Tim Burchett said in this interview. He said, Tim Burchett says that if anyone leaks where this money is going and where the Pentagon fails to audit, they'd probably be murdered. Now, that's a bold statement. Now let's listen to what Elon Musk said. Elon Musk says if he were to reveal the real ways Congress gets rich, it's going to get him assassinated. He says, the more we expose money laundering and fraud, you will be killed. Now that's a bold statement. That shows how big this bureaucratic class is. And it shows how powerful they are. Look how much people hate this man. He used to be a darling of the left. He could literally be quiet, make as much billions, and be the first trillionaire ever, and never get into politics, and he will be fine. Because guess what? If America fails, he just flies to Costa Rica. If Costa Rica fails, he just flies to Europe. If Europe fails, he can go to Abu Dhabi. If Abu Dhabi fails, he can go to China. That's what kind of power and money this man has. But no, he's willing to say the quiet parts out loud and to serve the American people, literally, to a point where it's free. Did you know why he has not picked up the people from the space station? The Biden administration held it up. They wanted it after the election so it would not look good on a Trump confidant or a Trump supporter to actually help them. They thought they were going to win, so they pushed it off till after inauguration. Well, when they realized they didn't win, they didn't really care. So these people that were supposed to be up there 8 days now, 8 days, have been up there, what, like 8 months? And there is not one singular other aspect of any craft that can get to the NASA space station or the International Space Station that doesn't involve Elon Musk. So when I say that he has power unbeknownst to us, we don't understand his top level securities. This was before he was tied to Trump. He already had the clearances. He had all the answers. And he was willing to get really persecuted because of what he's doing right now. I want you to go back and I want to listen to this one more time. Again, not that I trust and condone him on his lifestyle. I mean, the man's got like 14 children and like 4 women. I mean, the guy is not top of the notch when it comes to morals and values. But listen to what he says. He says, if I reveal where Congress is actually getting rich from, it's going to get me assassinated. Now, that's the kind of stuff that we need to know, but I think that's why you don't see Pam Bondi actually going to get the files. I think that's why you hear all these congressmen like Mike Johnson, who was a strong conservative, and then when he became leader over it all, he kind of waned down. That's why you see a lot of politicians speak hard, but then when they get to the swamp, they realize, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I can't drain the swamp. It's too big. That's the scary thing. And so now you see really 2 people, Trump and Elon, who could care flipping less because they got so much money. And Trump is at his age where he's aged out. He's also to a point where he's not going to get a 3rd term. There's no such thing. So it's one of those cases where I think they're like, you know what, who cares? We're going to build this country back up for legacy now. We're going to get it back to legacy because we have children, grandchildren. That's what we need. Elizabeth Warren came out yesterday and was talking about how dumb Elon Omar, same way, how dumb Elon was. AOC, how dumb Elon, that's the words they use now. Now, these are the same people that were poor that came to Congress and became rich are telling you how dumb Elon is when Elon made billions not needing the government. Now, people are like, oh, he had tons of contracts. Did you know all the loans he had from the government he paid back? Faster than most companies. Also, again, NASA couldn't do it without him. Ukraine couldn't have telecommunications in a war against Russia without him. Starlink is the only way. How did North Carolina and California get through the wildfires and the hurricane and get communication to get things to those places? Elon's company. So when you hear Democrats who have made millions off of you, who is getting sideline money somehow, that he talked about, if I expose it, I'm probably going to end up being assassinated. Listen to this. He's the one doing all that while they're the ones getting rich off you and taking your money. So these announcements like Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk are making, what it's showing you is how demonic and how swampy DC really is. Now, are we going to actually get the files from Pam Bondi? I don't know. Let's see if she's willing to stick her neck out like Elon just said. You know, when you get close to the truth and you start exposing it, it gets harder. I think of a fire. When I light a fire in my chimney, when I'm sitting in my recliner across the room, I feel the warmth, but it's not that bad. It's no risk to me. I just sit there. As I get closer, maybe I need to just get a little warmer. It gets hotter. It gets more warmth. I feel it. But then when I have to stoke the fire or put a new log on the fire, I have to be very careful because I could get burned. It's, embers are coming up. Flames are going everywhere. The closer I got to the fire, the more I realized how hot the fire was. The more we see these stories come out, like Elon just said and Tim Burchett just said, and what Trump has, he's already had 2 attempts on his life. The more you get to the truth and exposing how bad this is in the immoral, demonic ways of Washington, I think that's why we never see truth and change in Washington, because everybody's scared for their lives in all actuality, not figuratively, literally. I think of Madison Cawthorn. If you remember what he said, the guy that was in the wheelchair, that was a congressman, I thought was a good guy. And he said, I was tempted and I had more thrown at me. And when he brought up the parties, he brought up the immoral living, he brought up the dangers of Washington, they went after him and got him basically thrown out. He exposed something, and they found someone to primary him and beat him, and they paid for it. And guess who was part of that? McConnell. The Republican was the one getting him out. So what they're saying is, don't mess with our bureaucracy. Don't throw stones at our bureaucracy. And I think that's what Elon and Trump are doing, is they're taking a wrecking ball to it. Now the question is, can they fix it by themselves? Because they need help. They need the Cash Patels. They need the Dan Bonginos. They need the Pete Hegseths. They need the Tulsi Gabbard's and the RFKs. When you build a bigger team, then it's easier to face on the giants like they're having to face. But I want to go back and read that one more time. Again, this is the richest man in the world who does not have to do anything for America. He was not even born here, a naturalized citizen. He came here and immigrated here. He could go to any country he wants because of his billions, and he chooses to work for the American people. He says, if I reveal the ways Congress gets rich, it's going to get me assassinated. That is unbelievable. And I think that's why you're seeing such a pushback at Doge right now. Chuck Schumer came out and said, no business would do like Doge would do. What? I own a business, and every day I'm looking for ways I could cut and take away the spending so that way it helps my business do better. Why wouldn't people want that? Because you're exposing something. You're getting too close to the fire. And what they're saying is you're going to get burned. Crazy times that we live in. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on these stories. Again, it's encouraging to see what Trump is doing when it comes to timber, when it comes to gold, when it comes to mining operations. It's encouraging. It's encouraging to see some of this thought-provoking information come out that says, look, Zelensky is sleazy. He has been taking weapons and utilizing that money for bad things. It's time to get out of NATO, people. I'm just being honest. It's time. I'd love to see America come back and say, let's do America first. Let's focus on America. And when we get our crap together and we get our balanced budget, then we can start helping people. Other than that, if people want to come and buy things from us, fine. That's perfect. But we're not giving any free lunches out anymore. Guys, let me know your thoughts. God bless.
Before we end today's video, the winner of February's giveaway is Bella Sea Witch. Please reach out to us, Bella Sea Witch. That way we can get this to you. And again, thank you so much for watching, for commenting, and subscribing to the Max.